Are you looking to do deals and master flipping houses? Welcome to the DoDeals show with our host, Mr. Tim Mai. As a successful investor and mentor to many real estate investors, Tim's students consistently run 6- and 7-figure investing businesses. Each week, you'll hear from top real estate investors who share the best strategies, systems, and secrets that you can use to be more successful. Tim and his guests will pull back the curtain for you to learn their exact tactics, tricks, and tools that are working best right now in today's real estate market. Now, let's welcome Mr. Tim Mai.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to this interview. I'm your host, Tim Mai. Today I have the man, David Diehl, on the line with us. David is you can say he's a newbie investor, but he's like a rock star investor for only been doing this for 1.5 years. He's like my the person, I guess the newest person that I've ever interviewed. Normally when I interview, they've been doing this for a while, but David's a serial entrepreneur. He has so many successes and so many different businesses, and continue to do other businesses on top of real estate investing. And so I'm really glad to be doing this interview with David today. David, thank you, buddy. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
You bet, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. Well, David, share with everyone, because how you started in real estate investing is so different from how most of us started in real estate investing. You actually started as a hard money lender, which is like the opposite of what most of us do, right? Most investors, we start out with wholesaling, and then we move into fix and flip, we move into buy and hold, then we move into private lending or hard money lending. So share with us how you got started and what had you decided to start with the hard money lending part.
You got it, man. So a little bit of background on me. I came from a lot of different industries in the entrepreneur field, but I always knew through my studies that wealthy people are successful because they own real estate, right? And so after years and years of kicking the idea around of getting into real estate, I finally started going to guru events, believe it or not. So I went to an event and I met a guy and he's like, hey, you got to come see what we're doing. So I started to get educated, right? That was the biggest thing for me. I knew from my experience in other businesses and entrepreneurship ventures that the success and the keys to success are through learning the concepts and principles before you actually start taking the action, right? The action's important, but it's kind of like, running down the street trying to kick a soccer ball and you've never kicked a soccer ball before. You don't know what you don't know, right? The 4 levels of learning, if you go that direction. And so I started to get educated. I started to study the game of real estate. Then I started to look at where people made the most money. And right at the beginning, right out of the gate, when I said, okay, I want to start becoming a real estate investor, I looked at my options and I found a strategy through becoming a hard money lender that I didn't even know I had access to. And, we had bought our house in 2012. So it was at the peak low of the market. We ended up gaining about $100,000 in equity right out of the gate. And I said, so I can turn my house around, leverage the equity out of it, and become a hard money lender to make a 10% rate of return. Like, this is freaking awesome. So right out of the gate, I studied and learned the concepts and made sure that I had the proper documentation. We had an attorney draft up the paperwork and secure it by a promissory note. And so I stepped into a second position role, which, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know if I want to do that because traditionally the first position, are the safest. But I said, you know what? It's a gamble I'm willing to take. I'm basing this on my knowledge of the industry, how this operates, and then the relationships that I built, right? One of the key factors in becoming successful is having the right relationships and the right team in place. And you hear that a lot from anybody you talk to in the real estate game or anywhere else. The people you surround yourself with are the ones who are going to get you to where you want to go. Anyway, so the partnership we set up worked out great. We ended up having to extend a little bit longer than we had originally anticipated, but it was okay because the cash flow that was coming through the door was about $600 a month after I covered the debt service on that HELOC. And so now in a cash flowing position, starting to understand this component of cash flow. How do I develop more cash flow? And so I had another deal that I went and did another hard money loan on, and I started, getting into the flip market, and now I've transition more into the buy and hold. So I kind of went through that same process and model, but started with the hard money.
That's awesome. Okay, and so knowing what you know now, right, and doing the different types of deals, what do you see as the pros and cons? Not necessarily, the benefits of each of those different.
Sure. I think the biggest thing for me as a new investor, I was excited. Like, I got to get into a deal. Like, I've got to get into a deal like right now, right? Because that was the whole thing. Like, a real estate investor does deals. And so I was almost so deal hungry that I was distracted by some of the key components of what was going into effect, right? And really, you talk about the model of starting with wholesale and then moving to fix and flip and then moving to buy and hold. And what I realized was really it's about the person. What are the goals that you're trying to accomplish? What is it that you want to see? What is your 1, 3, 5, 10-year plan? Not just tomorrow, I want to go do a deal so I can make, $5,000 or $10,000 on a wholesale fee or $30,000 on a flip. But it's what is the long-term goal? And when you have that goal and the vision and the purpose of where you want to move forward to, that's when you can put in place the key factors to get there, right? So does that look like doing wholesale first, or does that look like doing fix and flip first? If it looks like doing fix and flips, go get educated, find a partner, and make it a fix and flip happen, right? Learn the game that you're trying to get into and play. Go hang out with real estate agents, find some friends, go to a networking group, go to a RIA, go to something, meet some people, and then start hanging around them, right? Learn from their experiences, learn from their expertise. And the biggest thing that I learned really was the value point, right? What value can you add to a deal? What are you bringing to the table? If you can bring some point of value, whether it's knowledge, money, time, your sweat equity aspect, or even relationships to a deal, you can find cohesion with somebody else to make a transaction occur, right? And then as you do a couple of them, you'll start to learn the game enough to where you can focus on that and go do your own deals. And that's what I did. One of the pitfalls was in the first fix and flip deal that we did, I partnered up with, one of my buddies who'd been in the industry for 10 years. And we got going through this process, and God, it seemed like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. But at the end of the day, we ended up thinking creatively based on, our ideas going back and forth and collaborating. We turned the deal around, still made about $25,000 on the deal after it had gone about a year, and our hold time we were planning on was 4 months. So we went a year, we still made money, still made our investors happy, and everything worked out great. You know what I mean? So it's knowledge, collaboration, and just taking the action once you have those other pieces in place.
Right. No, that's so true. I mean, I have a deal I'm working on now, right? That I've been having a lot of challenges with the deal, and I'm like, trying to figure out how am I going to solve this thing on my own. And then yesterday I was talking to one of my private lenders, also a friend, and and then he mentioned a strategy that I've never even crossed my mind to do. It's like, that's a really good idea, right? So yeah, whenever you're stuck or whenever you're having challenges with a deal, like, don't try to solve it on your own. Go talk to some people. They might have a different perspective that you haven't thought about. Right? And yeah, 'cause it's so true what you just said.
We get the blinders on, and that's really the key factor is don't get so distracted by the problem, but get more distracted by the solution. How do you do that? You put it out there, right? I'm a big believer in putting it out there to the universe, and talking to different people. And, you're not the only one in the game. You're not on an island, even though we feel like it as entrepreneurs and investors sometimes. We're not on an island. Like, there's lots of other people. We just have to be willing to go out there and ask.
That's awesome. So just share with us, how many, year and a half, how many deals have you done since then?
So in the last year and a half, I've done, working on my 6th transaction, which to some people wouldn't look like a lot, but you've got to also remember I'm a entrepreneur. So real estate investing isn't my only goal. It's kind of like we were talking about earlier. I'm looking at cash flow. If anybody who's watching this has never played the game Cash Flow by Robert Kiyosaki, this is not an endorsement, but go play it, because it's going to teach you something very powerful. And that powerful component is cash flow. So for me, the goal has always been, instead of, right out of the gate, I was doing deal after deal after deal after deal. And then all of a sudden I realized that this is cool. I'm making good money, but I want long term. I want a position to where I can build a system so I don't have to be the one making the transactions always happen, right? And so I started focusing on other businesses. So when you look at what I've done in the last year and a half, I may have done 6, working on my 6th transaction, but the key factor in that, I've turned around and gotten to the point where on an average month, I'm bringing through 5, 6, 7,000 a month in passive income through my investments. Within the next 6 months, so within a 2-year period, I'll have over 10 grand a month coming in through passive income, through my real estate holdings, through my automated business holdings. And then that allows me to focus on, okay, I want to get back in the flip game and build a model where I can do duplication and just pump these things out right and left. You know what I mean?
Right. So you haven't been focusing on like doing a bunch of flips or a bunch of wholesales, but focusing on, rentals, right? Buy and holds.
Buy and holds and creating cash flow, creating a passive income stream that whether I work tomorrow or I don't, I can make money. And I think at the end of the game, that's why we all want to get into real estate, is we want to make money, right? And why do we want to make money? Like, what's the underlying reason? Because we want the lifestyle. We want to hang out with our family, our friends. We want to do those things, right? Coming back to the why. What's your why and your purpose for doing real estate? For me, and the path that I chose to go down, it was, I see value in this cash flow number that I've been fascinated for years with. And I finally started to crack that code to where in a very short period of time, I'm duplicating my model and building that revenue stream to where now I can focus on, because flips are a blast. Like, I love flips because there's always a challenge and something new to solve. And when you can figure out the system and the model and you can go cookie cutter, you can start busting. I've got buddies that are doing 7, 8, 10 deals a month, and they're just cranking them out. Every 3 months they're turning 200 grand in profit. And I'm just like, that's sick. Like, that's awesome. But for me, my model is build the foundation and grow with expansion. Right.
Right. No, that's good. I like it. I mean, it's a a very sound strategy that I think that not enough people do, right? Like we're all so quick to jump on those like big paydays, like hurry up, get right. But yeah, building that foundation of monthly residual, passive income is so important long term. When we're looking at long term, so that's awesome. Okay, well, give us some tips, like someone getting started. Okay. Where would you recommend them to start and how?
Well, I'd say the first thing is, you get started, you make the decision, right? For me, I have this very passionate direction of everybody is faced with different opportunities in their lives, right? And you've got decisions and you've got choices. The decisions are when you make that final point of, okay, I'm going to do this, and the choices are the subsequent steps to back it up. So you've now started that decision. I want to become a real estate investor. I want to get in the game. You're still working your job. You're still working your other businesses, whatever the case is, the situation you're in. That's awesome. You've made the decision. The first step is start building your relationships, building your team, right? You don't know anything about the industry. So what do? You've got to go out and seek it out, right? Come to this podcast, start learning, start putting yourself in a position to gain the education necessary so you can have an educated conversation with somebody, a mentor or, somebody in the industry, in the game, and then start surrounding yourself with people, right, that are doing it. Once you take that step, get involved in different groups. Every community has some type of group of real estate investor. And if they don't, start one, right? Just because you haven't done it doesn't mean you can't start it. Be the connector in the piece, right? There's investors that are out there. Create a meetup group and start this meetup where you can start pulling, you're the connector to bring the people together. And then you just start going and adding value to these people And by adding value to them, you're going to start learning what you need to do. Then build your team. Put the right people in places. Find your contractor team. Find your real estate agent team. Build your buyers list if you're going wholesale. Start doing these different steps, and then one after one, right? It kind of goes back to the Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, your real estate business isn't going to be built in a day either. Like, just deal with that, right? Plan on, a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. And it's not a race. Like, a lot of people get this concept of, oh my gosh, he's doing something over here, he's doing something over here. Forget about this. Focus on you. I love the Michael Phelps meme. I don't know if you saw that with the Olympics. If you haven't, you got to go check it out. But Michael Phelps is in the lead, and it shows the swimmer next to him looking over at him. And the basic context of the meme was, winners focus on winning, not on second place, right? And so we can't get distracted by what everybody else is doing. Focus on you. Focus on what your goals are. If it looks like a longer term plan, then fine. Deal with that and focus on the steps to get there, right? If it looks like, okay, I'm super motivated and I want to turn this into deals and money now, then do that. And the simple steps, again, go back to learning what you're even doing, surrounding yourself with the right team, building your lists, and then putting it into action.
Right.
You do that, see the success.
That's awesome, and I really like your idea and how you got started with, basically taking out a home equity line of credit on your house and use that to do hard money lending. I think another similar strategy could just be partner up with someone on a deal, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that, especially if they're an experienced flipper, like your money is pretty safe and you make good money too, and you learn. You get to learn a lot in the process.
So check this out. That brings up a great point. So the first flip I ever did, right, I found a deal. And then I was like, what do I do with this deal, right? Where do I go? And so I started talking to one of my friends that I had built this relationship with that had been doing real estate for 10 years. And I went to him and I said, I've got a deal. What do I do with it? And he's like, well, we got to run some comps. I'm like, what is a comp? I don't know what the meaning of this word is, right? Like, newbie investor. And so he explains the steps of what's going on. And so I'm like, all right. So we start walking through the process and we get to the point where we need money, right? So I started asking questions and I started finding relationships. I found a hard money guy that had been referred to me by my cousin who was a real estate agent, right? So I went and built that relationship and he's like, yeah, I'll lend on the deal. And we're still short like $100,000. So check this out. We literally had an event where we hosted a house tour. So, and it was like a community aspect. Come walk through, see what how the deal works, know that what's going on in your neighborhood. I literally pull up to the property. A guy across the street says, what are you guys doing? And I'm like, we're doing a house tour. We're showing people, this one just got flipped and we're showing people what's going on with it. So he ends up coming over. We start building this relationship. And this was 6 months prior. And then I'm like going through, at the end of the conversation we had, he's like, hey, if you ever come across something, let me know. So I call him up and I say, hey, we got this deal. Do you want in? And he's like, yeah, I'm in. $100,000 right there. It was a guy I'd never even met before until I was in a place with the right mindset of, always prepared for opportunity when it knocks. So out of the blue, I had brought money together and I had no idea all I found was a house. And then he's like, well, we need this. So I went out and I found this. And then we need this too. So I went out and found this, and then everything just sort of came together and we were able to make the deal happen.
And that being resourceful of connecting the different pieces is such fundamental to any kind of business.
It is.
Right, and with you doing different businesses, right? That I think that's the number one. It's one of the most important thing that we do as an entrepreneur is just our ability, to be resourceful and to get things done. Is like the fundamental skills to our success, right? So why don't you speak into that, were you born with this entrepreneur genes, or how did it get developed? And what are some of the things that you continue to do to hone this entrepreneur skill set?
Yeah, you got it. So the first thing, born with, I think I kind of was, at 8 years old, I was out hustling lemonade on the corner. By 12, I was working in, my uncle had an auto parts warehouse, right? And so I was working the summers there, trying to learn this money concept, like from a very young age, right? And then the best example I can give of me being a true entrepreneur, at 15, I had like a real job, right? I was still in junior high and I was working at a bike shop. And it was July 4th and the ski resorts were open. I'm a big skier, right? And so I'm like, hey, July 4th is happening and the resorts are open. I need to get the day off so I can go ski. And the guy's like, no, you can't do that. Like, you need to work. And I said, well, what are my options? And he said, well, you can walk out the door, you can keep working. And I said, okay, see ya, and walked out the door. I said, I'll be back in 2 weeks to pick up my check. And that was, for me, I was decided from a very young age that I'd figure out how to make money on my own. And I always have, right? And I think I got it from my dad. Like, my family's been in the commercial real estate business forever. My grandpa owned a lumber company back in the day. And, my dad's owned different businesses and real estate. And that's where he's made his money. And so without him teaching me anything, I just saw it and I picked up on it and learned, right? And then my brother and my sister are like exact opposites of me, right? And so for me, I kind of learned it from a young age and I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I just sort of followed the path, and continuing to hone it, I think really came down to entrepreneurship, I think, lies within everybody. But the people that make the decision and feel the drive and that hunger inside for more than just working a normal job, those are the ones who are willing to take the action necessary to see the result, right? And you talked about honing. How do you hone? Well, really, it's putting it into practice. It's consistency. But when I walk into any establishment, I'm looking automatically for the system. I can't go anywhere now. Like, I'll walk into a restaurant, I'll walk into a business, and I'm looking, how does this operate? How do these guys make money? What are they doing? What are their sales tactics? How are they upselling in the line? You know what I mean? I'm looking at all of these different pieces, and I hone those skills just by reading. I mean, I've read hundreds, if not thousands of books, listened to, tons of audios and podcasts, and constantly spending money on personal development to learn and develop myself. Because I know I am my biggest asset, but I'm also my biggest critic, right? So if I can't learn how to overcome my own self-critic and my own voice in my head going, Dave, you can't do this deal because you're not going to be able to find the money. Or, hey, these numbers don't look super accurate and right. What, you can't figure out a way to make this work, right? If I can't figure out how to combat my own critic, then I'm never going to be able to succeed in real estate or in investing or in any other business that I try and do. So Jim Rohn said it best. He said, in order to have more, you have to become more. And so for those who are, at that point of that crux where they want to make the decision to become an entrepreneur and an investor, I would simply say, look, be decided and put consistent habits in your place that include personal development, learning and growth about the industry, start studying market trends, start developing those relationships and skills with the people that are in the industry, and start with that. Start with the basics. Don't think how this big picture of I'm never going to be able to figure this out, but think small. One bite at a time is how you eat a whole elephant, right? So you just got to start small, start simple, and grow into it.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, as you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, you know what? Entrepreneurship is like a sport, right? And money is our score, right? But it is like a sport, and the more you practice the sport, the better you get at it, right? And some of us, we want to do it as a hobby, and some of us, we want to be in the minor league, and some of us want to be in the major league, right?
Right. And that's okay. You can go where you want to go.
Right. Exactly. That's awesome. All right, David, dude, it's been an amazing interview. I love it. I'm sure that some of the viewers want to reach out and get to know you, do some business with you, what would you like to send them?
Yeah, if you just go connect with me on social media, it's just the Big Deals. So TheBigDiehls on all of my social media platforms. You can also reach out to me via email, and that's just dave@thebigdeal.com. Again, that's Dave, and it's at TheBigDiehL.com. So that'd be the best way to reach out to me.
Awesome. All right, David. Well, thank you so much, buddy, for this awesome interview. I love it. I love entrepreneur. I'm a serial entrepreneur myself. I have multiple businesses all the time besides my real estate investing. A lot of people don't know that.
It's fun. You gotta love, man. See, I think the thing is too is a lot of times we get like closed into this, realm of, well, I have to be this, right, for my image and what I do. And anymore, I'm just like, dude, I'm just a serial entrepreneur. I just like go where the wind takes me, and I see the results that come, And it's a lot more fun that way.
Yeah, for sure. But thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate you.
You bet, man. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you liked this interview and got value out of it, make sure you give us feedback, share it with your friends, rate us. And with that, happy investing, and we'll see you on the next interview. Bye-bye for now.
And that's our show for today. If you have any questions or would like to get further training from Tim Mai, please visit our website at www.dodeals.com/Tim.